Okay, welcome to the Yoga Teacher Collaborative, and for today's session on sequencing and teaching yoga classes for nervous system regulation. Now, this is really useful if you are planning a specific class that is intended to support your students through times of stress, anxiety, tension, to actively teach yoga for nervous system regulation, but actually it's relevant in every single yoga class. Our entire life is experienced through our nervous system. It is why two people can go to the same event, class, restaurant, meal, family gathering, and have totally different experiences. Yes, that is shaped by perception, but really noticeably shaped by the state of that individual's nervous system in that moment. So all of our interactions in life, from meetings, from family meals, to all the yoga classes we teach, an understanding of the nervous system and nervous system regulation is really powerful for you, how you are in that situation, and for also understanding what is happening with your students or other people that you are interacting with. So that is what we are diving into today. So thank you for joining me for this topic, whether you're watching live in the Yoga Teach Collaborative Facebook group. If you are, those comments, I love to interact with you in the comments. Or if you're listening to this on the podcast, Yoga Teach Collaborative podcast on Spotify, again, feel free to reach out and DM me, connect on social media with any questions. So why are we talking about the nervous system today? This is a little taster. I'm really hoping to give you some tangible information that you can implement into your classes from next week. But also, this is ahead of my very special online teacher training, which is a training to teach yoga for nervous system regulation. It is an 8-hour online live training with me, although you can do it at any other time with the replays. It is starting a week today on the 15th of April, but you can do it at any time. So if you like what we're doing today, come do the full 8-hour training with me. It will really change your life when you learn how to regulate your nervous systems and be super impactful for your students. I've been exploring yoga for nervous system regulation in my classes for about 4 or 5 years now, and it is consistently the classes I get the best feedback on from my students. The effects of a well-crafted yoga sequence that balances the nervous system is immediately felt by your students. So it creates really powerful practices. I am going to put on a mini screen share today because I want to start us from presuming you have no knowledge of the nervous system through to the more complex things that we'll cover today. So I am going to put a little screen share on with a PowerPoint, but if you are listening to this on the podcast, you can see the video in Spotify, but if you're out walking, don't worry, I'll make sure you get all of this information just through listening. The PowerPoint is just a backup device for that. So let me just get this screen share on. Press the magical present button. There we go. So this is just a snippet from my Yoga for the Nervous System training, just taking out a couple of slides. So presuming we're starting from a place of, do you know what? I'm not actually that clear on what the nervous system is. If you're a bit like me, I really didn't listen in biology at school. And it's only as I have become a yoga teacher that I found human biology absolutely mind-blowing. But I had to start from not really understanding. So the branches of the nervous system. You have your central nervous system, and that consists of your brain and predominantly the spinal cord. Then you have the peripheral nervous system. And the peripheral nervous system is all the other nerves that are coming off from the brainstem, coming off from the spinal cord, and going into every other aspect of your body, going into your eyes, going into your fingers, going into your toes, going into your organs. That is all the peripheral nervous system. So we are much more focused on the peripheral nervous system when we're looking at actively using yoga for nervous system regulation. So what is the peripheral nervous system? This then splits into two further branches, the autonomic nervous system and the somatic nervous system. Now, this is quite easy to remember. Autonomic nervous system. Think auto, automatic. Automatic nervous system or autonomic nervous system. And this is what's taking care of all of the processes in our body that are happening automatically, such as right now, as I'm speaking to you, I am not having to think about the beating of my heart. My heart is naturally beating away. I'm not having to think about my breathing. I'm just effortlessly inhaling and exhaling as I'm talking to you. And there are a whole load of other processes, such as temperature management, all sorts of things that are happening automatically within me right now that are being controlled by the nervous system that I'm not having to think about. Autonomic nervous system. And then you have the somatic nervous system. And somatic nervous system is the things that we have to think about doing. So if I want to pick up my cup of tea, I have to think, send messages from my brain via the somatic nervous system to tell my body to extend my arm, grab my cup of tea, wrap my fingers around it, lift it to my face, and then drink my tea. So that is coming from the somatic, the things I have to think. If someone's coming into my yoga class and I'm deciding to give them a warm, welcoming smile, I have to think about that, send messages via the somatic nervous system to my muscles to tell me to smile. So you would think that actually in a yoga class, it was the somatic nervous system we wanted to focus on. But when it comes to nervous system regulation, it's actually the autonomic nervous system that is most powerful to connect with, because it's within the autonomic nervous system that we have the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. And it's these two that are really influential in how I'm experiencing my life. Am I nervous? Am I feeling stressed? Am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling relaxed? Am I easily at rest? All of this is under the parasympathetic or sympathetic nervous system. Now, the layperson's term that you're most familiar with these is parasympathetic, is the fight or flight response. Now, sorry, my brain's gone for a second. Sympathetic nervous system, I'm so sorry. Sympathetic nervous system is fight or flight response. I actually don't like using those terms, fight or flight response, because they inherently sound negative. I prefer, and I teach people to think of the sympathetic nervous system as a state of heightened awareness. Now, that can be heightened awareness in a time of stress, tension, and fear in a negative place. But sometimes we're in heightened awareness via our own choosing. Maybe we're giving a presentation. Maybe we're standing up and teaching a large yoga class. Maybe we're just trying to get through a Zumba or line dancing class, or we're going out on a date. So it's a state of heightened awareness that can be a positive state you've chosen to be in, or it could obviously be a negative state with a fearful, traumatic experience. But sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, most commonly known as I said, I prefer to think of it as a heightened state of awareness. And then you have the parasympathetic nervous system. This is often called the place of rest and digest. But again, I don't think that's really helpful. What's more helpful is to think of the parasympathetic nervous system as your home base. where you feel present, engaged in conversations. You can take in new information. You can have logical, clear conversations with people. Yes, you can be at rest. Yes, you can sleep well. Yes, you can be chilled out. But it's not just the place of rest and digest. When we think of parasympathetic as just rest and digest, we think, oh, that's at the end of my day when I'm chilling out. But actually, how can I be in my life, in meetings, in yoga classes, interacting with people around the dinner table, in this place of parasympathetic, where I am present, socially engaged, and calm? So parasympathetic, present, our home base, socially engaged, where everything is operating and functioning well, parasympathetic nervous system. And then sympathetic nervous system being the state of heightened awareness that I can dip in and out of when the moment requires before returning back to the home base of the parasympathetic nervous system. So I hope that helps. Next level of complexity that I want to add to this is polyvagal theory. And it's important that we engage with the word theory there. What we were just talking about is commonly accepted science. Polyvagal is a theory. Now, it's a theory I have been working with for a long time, and I know a lot of people that have been working with it for a long time, and we find it an exceptionally powerful lens through which to support people in nervous system regulation and through which to understand the complexities of the nervous system. Now, polyvagal theory is by Dr. Stephen Porges. He is a psychiatrist and neuroscientist. It is just a theory. His work hasn't been wholly accepted by all of the scientific community, but a lot of people find it very, very powerful. And I really do as well, especially as a yoga teacher. Now, in polyvagal theory, Stephen Porges was really looking at how can we be more active operators of our autonomic nervous system. So instead of being like, oh, my heart's racing, I feel stressed, just go, I notice my heart rate is racing. I notice that I feel stressed and anxious. What tools do I have that I can become an engaged operator, lower my heart rate, lower my stress levels, and return home to the parasympathetic nervous system? So it's from awareness and action comes nervous system regulation. What's important to understand about polyvagal theory is where we just before had those two avenues of parasympathetic nervous system, rest, digest, home base, socially engaged, and sympathetic, heightened awareness, fight or flight. Polyvagal theory adds a third to this. So it keeps the sympathetic nervous system, heightened awareness, just as it is, the stress response. But then he splits the parasympathetic nervous system into two. Calling, and remember this is a theory, referring to them as ventral vagal response and dorsal vagal response. And ventral vagal is this home base. I'm present, I'm here, I'm socially engaged. I can take in information, I can give out information. My body is operating well, my immune system's looking after itself, I'm present and engaged. Ventral vagal. Then sympathetic, heightened state of awareness, stress, anxiety. And then dorsal vagal is when we have been in a state of heightened awareness so long that the body is then starting to shut down. It is numb. Think burnout, adrenal fatigue, numb. Life has become too much. I am stepping away from this. So I'm here, but I'm not really here. When someone is in a dorsal vagal shutdown, they completely go in with themselves. They're present physically in the room, but withdrawn. Really depleted energy levels. So Dr. Stephen Porges says that we are a toggle between these three. We're not a hard on-off switch. It's a hierarchical toggle. And for us as yoga teachers, it's about really understanding where are people coming to class. Most people are coming to class a little, because it's a toggle, remember? So you're not hardcore one or the other. Often people are coming a little sympathetic. They're having a slight heightened sense of awareness from whatever stress triggers have happened in that day. Or they might be coming to yoga in a little bit of that dorsal vagal, tired, depleted, exhausted, numb, shut down. And the yoga class wants to cultivate and bring people home to the ventral vagal. One of the best ways of sequencing your yoga classes using this understanding is knowing that this is all part of the nervous system. The nervous system is nerves coming from the brain, the brainstem, the spinal cord, going off into the peripheral nervous system into all parts of your body. The job of the nerves is to take signals and communication from your brain to your body, from your body to your brain. They are messenger relays. So we can actively send messages via this relay. Now, we want to be sending messages to the parasympathetic nervous system, where the ventral vagal is. So it's great to understand what are the nerves of the parasympathetic nervous system. And in my 8-hour training, we go into these in great detail and look at how do you stimulate every single one of these nerves. Too much for us to do today. That takes 8 hours. We have the oculomotor nerve, the facial nerve, the glossopharyngeal nerve, the vagus nerve, and then also the pelvic nerves that supply the pelvic organs, the organs of the pelvis. What we can take a little look at today is the vagus nerve. You've probably heard of the vagus nerve, and it's the most significant one to stimulate in a yoga class because for a start, it's huge. It's coming from the brainstem through a little bit into my face, really down through either side of my neck, into my lungs. It helps with breathing, into my heart. It helps regulate my heart rate, down into the abdominal organs. It's really spreading through a whole part of the body and is very affected by asanas, breathwork, meditation, and movement. Why is the vagus nerve so great to stimulate in yoga? It's because 80% of the nerve fibers of the vagus nerve communicate to the brain, and only 20% are communicating from the brain to the body. So it really is how your body is communicating with your brain as to what is happening and what state of alertness should I be in. Should I be in parasympathetic or sympathetic? Polyvagal theory considers the vagus nerve in 3 areas, simply because it's so big. As I said, there's 2 sides of it, left and right. It comes into the face, the neck, the lungs, the heart, through the diaphragm, through the abdominal organs. It's huge. So to try and work with something so big, polyvagal theory considers it in 3 sections. You have the clavicular section of the vagus nerve, which is kind of the face and the neck. Then you have the thoracic section of the vagus nerve, which is really where it innervates the heart, the lungs, the diaphragm. And then we have the abdominal section of the vagus nerve, where it's coming down into the area below the diaphragm. So when you look at this, if you're looking at the PowerPoint with me, you can see I've shaded it in different colors here. Now, full yogic breath. The full yogic breath, when we intentionally inhale, diaphragmatically, diaphragm descends, belly swells. Inhale into the ribs, intercostal muscles move, ribs expand, and even draw the breath all the way up to the collarbones, the clavicle. That full yogic breath is stimulating every zone of the vagus nerve. So I highly recommend that in all of your yoga classes, you are cueing, teaching the fundamentals of good breathing. Because what is full yogic breath? Is it a pranayama, or is it simply good respiration. So we know many of our students come to class as kind of rib breathers or collarbone breathers, breathing up into the top of the chest. As soon as you cue your students in every single yoga class for diaphragmatic belly breathing, then obviously the ribs and the clavicular as well, you're stimulating all three zones of the vagus nerve and also the chant of Om. So when you split the chant of Om up into its three inherent vibrations of A, R, O, it vibrates every zone of the vagus nerve. When I start my Om with the deep resonant R, the ah, and really feel that deep, I'm stimulating with the vibration the abdominal zone of the vagus nerve. When that ah becomes the oh, when I really think about feeling that vibration in my chest, stimulating the thoracic zone of the vagus nerve. And then when you're finishing that om with the closed mouth, you're bringing the vibration up through the clavicular zone, up through the throat, and even up into the face. You can feel your lips and your nose vibrate with it. So even that om there is sending a vibration through all the zones of the vagus nerve. When you think of that together as the om, it's flowing through all of that. So share information, explore the chant of Om. Get your students to try and feel the R deep, low in their body, then into the chest, then up into the face, and explain, the history of Om, why it's such a sacred phrase, but also some of the science of why when we chant Om, does it have such meditative, calming, and soothing effect? That's because the three syllables within it are vibrating and stimulating all three zones of the vagus nerve. And when we teach like this, giving some information on the philosophy, the spirituality, but also the science, also the mechanisms of why something's helping you feel good, really brings your buy-ins from all sorts of students, the mystics, the engineers, the athletes in the room, all starting to get buy-in about why does yoga make me feel great? It's different for different people. Okay. So before we move more into really thinking about what's happening in the workings of a yoga class, it's important to understand that your nervous system is always working in service of either a drive to survive or a longing to connect. So the first function is your nervous system is designed to keep you alive, safe, and out of danger. It has a drive to survive. So every time you go somewhere, your nervous system is always processing safety or danger, trying to work out, is this somewhere safe to me to be? And then when the nervous system has decided that, yes, this is safe, there is then this inherent longing to connect. Humans survive, exist, and flourish as part of tribes in communities. When we are isolated, our life expectancy goes down, and we're no different in that to trees. The life expectancy of a tree is higher when it lives in a forest or a woodland than a tree that is living on its own in isolation, because the trees look after each other through their root system and through the hormones and smells and messages they emit. We are the same. Our nervous system is hardwired to having a longingness to connect. Now, I, like many of you, I'm deeply introverted. So there's always a slight raised eyebrow when my brain thinks, do I really have a longing to connect? Can't I just live in a field on my own? No, Laura. Even in the most introverted part of us, in our development, there is this longing to, because it is important for the survival of the human race. So we factor that in just a moment. But it's also, as I said, coming back to polyvagal theory, it's a toggle. Is someone in that dorsal vagal shutdown when we're needing to turn the toggle up so that they're coming out of that place of shutdown into the state of heightened awareness, there's some energy in the system, returning them home to the home base of ventral vagal parasympathetic, or is somebody in that heightened state of awareness and you need to wind them down to bring them back home. Now, I notice this in all of my classes, but it seems most obvious in like my restorative classes when, yes, I have a lesson plan. And the restorative classes, yin classes, chill out classes, my gentle yoga, physical and mental stress relief, all of those have a advertised singular focus to bring you to a place of rest, restorative yoga, yin yoga, gentle yoga, to regulate the nervous system. So in those classes versus like a hot yoga, a power yoga, a vinyasa yoga, in the gentle yin restorative, I know that everybody that has chosen to be there is wishing to leave the class with a deeper sense of rest, ease. They've signed up to gentle yoga, restorative yoga, or yin yoga. So I know we're going down. So we're coming from this place of heightened awareness. They wish to soothe and settle their nervous system, feel at rest and at ease. It's a little hard always to read in other yoga styles, but I know that because of how it's advertised in restorative yin, gentle yoga. So I know we're there to soothe and regulate someone's nervous system. So I have a lesson plan that's designed to do that. But what I don't know is collectively, and there's always outliers, collectively how that class is feeling when they arrive. So I need to know, have they already come in actually tired, exhausted, and depleted, and we're just trying to support deep rest so that the system gets to heal? Or if they come in a strong sympathetic nervous system response, a strong state of heightened awareness, that I'm then having to relax them into a place of ease. I have to be able to know that information and tweak my lesson plan. So say in a restorative or yin, I've decided that the class is starting all lying down with an extended shavasana. But then I see the class walk in and they're very chatty, they're standing up, they're making lots of eye contact, they're looking around the room, there's a nervous energy. And I know, I need to meet them where they are in a heightened state of awareness and slowly regulate that nervous system, bringing that toggle down to a place of rest and relaxation. Or if another week you come in and that same class, everybody is already lying down. This happens to me quite often. They're already in Shavasana. They've already got their blankets on, just waiting for the class to start. And go, they're already probably dorsal vagal depleted and tired. So how can I let them experience a more healing deep rest here? So in those moments, you've got to read what is happening at the beginning of the class and know what to do with the sequence. So that means, restorative classes, they're usually always still long-held poses. But if the class have come in a heightened state of awareness, I need to meet them there with, maybe even some standing half sun salutations, some standing bouncing, shaking, or tapping. Even though you'd think, standing asanas, there's no space for those in restorative, I've got to meet my students where they are to journey with them to where they want to be. I can't begin a class where you want to be. I need to journey you there. So let's look at a little more about the actual comings and goings of a yoga class. So some of the other key aspects of polyvagal theory, one of them is neuroception. So we have perception. I walk into a room, my brain perceives what's going on. But then I also have neuroception, which is all of the messages my brain nervous system is picking up and processing about safety or danger that is outside my obvious noted state. Okay, so I've gone into a room and I've noticed really tangibly, oh, the music's really loud in here, I feel stressed. Okay, perception. But neuroception, I've walked in and I've maybe noticed without realizing I've noticed that there is a feel of stress in the room. Okay, so it's what neuroception is kind of beyond cognition, what my nervous system is picking up subliminally almost as it's in a space. So this is happening all the time as your nervous system is permanently trying to ascertain safety or danger. So we want to be constantly aware in the yoga environment of sending out messages for the neuroception to pick up on of safety. So this starts all the way with new students, because being a new student going to a class for the first time in and of itself brings you to a state of heightened awareness, sympathetic nervous system. You don't know where you're going. You're going to a new hall, a new studio. You don't know where you're going to park your car. You don't know anyone in the room. You don't know what everyone's going to be wearing. You don't know where to put your jacket. You don't know if you're welcome. Going to something for the first time, even if you're excited about it and not actively anxious, there is still a state of heightened awareness. And we know that. And we want to give your students everything they need to know so they don't have to be as heightened. So that's right from things like the welcome email when a new student books. Are you making it very clear for them where the class is, where the postcode is, where the parking is the parking for free, what to bring? What to wear, so that you answer all of those questions so that the person knows what to expect. Then 24 hours before a student comes to their very first class, send them a welcome email, text, WhatsApp. This idea that I'm feeling welcomed, someone is waiting to greet me. When we're stressed and we don't know where we're going, knowing that someone is waiting to greet you automatically calms that nervous system. So a little email, hi Gemma, really looking forward to seeing you at your first class. I'll be at the front door ready to greet you, or I'll be sitting in the room ready to greet you. Or even going as far as to say, if you're not sure about where you're coming, you want to message me, I can meet you in the car park, or just I'll be in the yoga room ready to greet you. Okay. Then a personal greeting to that student. And this is this longing to connect aspect. So nervous system drive to survive, longing to connect. So as soon as someone comes into the class, hi, you know a new student's booked in. Hi, you must be Gemma. My name is Laura. Now that sounds like a small thing, and I talk about it in customer service, but I want you to see it from the science side here, that your nervous system is hardwired for a longing to connect. Then telling somebody where to put their bag, where the toilet is, reminding them of the timings of the class and telling them this class is from 6 till 7. We will finish promptly at 7 p.m. because often people worry about where they're going on to next. Introducing them to the person on the mat next to them. Again, yes, this is good customer service, but please understand the science of it, that we are helping the nervous system balance the drive to survive, longing to connect. There being a space to ask you questions or share concerns. Have you got any aches, pains, injuries, anything else you want me to know about today? Giving that person space to express that. Again, drive, survive, longing to connect. Being audible and visible as the teacher. Being audible is definitely very important for new students. It doesn't matter how good your cues are, if you're not audible, that is directly triggering a sympathetic nervous system response of heightened awareness. When there is dialogue in a room and you're struggling to hear, leaning to hear, missing the occasional word, your nervous system that's programmed for a drive to survive, like, am I missing something important? Am I missing an instruction? So it brings it into this heightened state of awareness. The same goes for being visible as a teacher. I teach my classes with an outer semicircle and an inner semicircle, and then I'm landscape at the front. And I'm very aware, can I make eye contact with every student in the room? Like I suddenly noticed a student on Wednesday, I couldn't quite see him. So when everybody was in a closed eyes pose, I quickly moved my mat along a foot so I could make eye contact with him. And that is important for the same reason as being audible. Your nervous system is programmed that this is the person I'm taking instruction from. Okay. We are very visual learners. So if I can't see, same as if I can't hear, what am I missing out on? Is there an important cue I'm missing? So it feeds into that drive to survive aspect of the nervous system. And then again, for a new student, a confirmation that they are doing it right or okay. Now, I know there is no such thing as right when it comes to yoga asana, when it comes to how we move our body. And over time, we're journeying with our students so they stop wondering, is this right? And they wonder, how does it feel? How am I feeling today? But that is a journey. And a new student, drive to survive, longing to connect, their nervous system is always working on, am I doing this right? Am I fitting in? Is this okay? Am I doing it right? Am I safe? Is drive to survive. Am I doing it right? Do I fit in? Is a longingness to connect. So for the first couple of classes, your student's not going to be hearing the rest of, how does this feel? Because their nervous system's not got there yet. So just making a little bit of eye contact with a new student, giving them a little smile. I'm a big fan of a sneaky little thumbs up to a new student, just that visual encouragement. You're doing it okay, you're doing it right. And then I will always go straight to that new student at the end of a class and say, well done, you did really good, you followed along beautifully, and find them something that they can praise, because that is giving their nervous system that feedback. Yes, you're safe here. Yes, you connect here. Yes, you fit in here. And then over the weeks, they can journey towards less requirement from you. Am I doing this right? More internal connection of, how does this feel for me? That's neuroception. Then another key aspect of polyvagal theory is co-regulation. So co-regulation is our nervous systems are always communicating with one another, again, in this longing to connect, drive to survive. And what is happening in one person's nervous system will affect what's happening in someone else's nervous system. There's many reasons and ways this happens, but the more dominant nervous system, the more dominant person in an environment, their nervous system is much more likely to affect somebody else's. So if you are feeling stressed and anxious and you are more dominant in that situation, the other people around you are going to leave feeling stressed and anxious because their nervous system has regulated with yours. But equally, if you're calm, relaxed, ventral vagal, the other nervous systems pick up the communication that you are in parasympathetic, you are in ventral vagal, therefore it's okay, therefore their nervous system down-regulates. Co-regulation is one of the main reasons I think that group yoga classes are so impactful. I had a new student, well, a returner student to class this week. She must have been coming to class with me about 10 years ago. I recognized her as soon as she walked into the room. And in that last 9-10 years, she's been busy having babies. But she said, oh, I have been doing yoga online, but I really missed being in a class. And I went back in and checked with her at the end of the class, and she was like, yeah, that's what I was missing in my yoga, was the community aspect. She didn't talk to anybody else in that room, in that whole class, other than me, but she had been missing the sense of community, even though she didn't engage and interact with anybody. And often we don't in yoga. It's an individual journey taken within a group, but the nervous systems are co-regulating. And when in a yoga class, the teacher is guiding everybody towards parasympathetic ventral vagal, that's compounded and everybody's nervous systems get to regulate together. So what are ways that we co-regulate? Again, it sounds like good customer service, but it's more than that. Greeting your students by name, eye contact, and a smile. Ventral vagal is where we are socially engaged, relaxed and socially engaged. When you make eye contact with someone, it brings them out of the stress. They connect on a social level. When you remember their name, it brings them out of what's happening in the fight or flight or the dorsal, locates them into the present moment. And so does a smile. Smile, you know they're infectious. A smile is infectious through co-regulation. Eye contact and smiles occasionally where appropriate during a class. And this does bring me slightly onto, and please excuse my language, the science behind resting bitchy face. Now, it's a horrible expression, resting bitchy face, but there is science behind it. Resting bitchy face is just the absence of expression. We know it actually is a very unreliable indicator of what is happening with someone. We all know those students that we interpreted as grumpy in class and then come at you at the end and say how much they loved that class. Their face was just at rest. Now, this is neuroception. But when your nervous system is permanently looking for cues of safety or danger, it reads other people's faces. When there is eye contact and a smile, your nervous system is reading that as cues of safety and it downregulates. When the face is blank, and I can't actually do it, when the face is blank and there's no expression, the nervous system is going, not enough data here. I cannot determine whether this person is happy, angry, or sad. Therefore, I'm going to protect myself, say they're grumpy and angry in case of danger. When someone's outwardly angry, eyes bulging, face red and looking grumpy, your nervous system knows, heightened state of awareness, this person is on edge, I need to protect myself. It does the same with the resting face because there's no data. So as the teacher, noticing your face where appropriate, a little smile, a little warmth, a little eye contact during the class, those people's nervous systems are reading that. Another huge aspect of co-regulation is breathing with your class. Diaphragmatic belly breathing stimulates the vagus nerve, regulates the heart rate, grounds us into the ventral vagal. When you are breathing with your class, you are managing your own nervous system and your students are co-regulating with you. And breathe, Ujjayi breath, breathe in the class. And group breath connection. So when we are inhaling, cueing that, and everyone's breathing in and everyone's breathing out together at certain points throughout the whole class, but when there's moments to feel that wave of a whole class breathing together, that's powerful co-regulation. Being in the flow with your class. So obviously you don't have to do all of the class with your class, you are there to teach them, but sometimes using your body in the asanas to show this can feel relaxing, to indulge in a pose, your students will co-regulate with that. Now it's a hard line to walk between this isn't your practice, but you're letting your nervous system through your asanas communicate with your students. Eye contact after Shavasana. So Shavasana, we draw very inwards. It can be a little dorsal vagal. So when we come out of Shavasana, bringing everyone together up seated, maybe one more collected breath, everyone to breathe in together and then sigh out. or a closing Om. And then even just when you're thanking your students for attending, look around the room and making eye contact with everybody is just lifting them out of that dorsal vagal, lifting them back into ventral vagal, the home base. Group Om and a group closing. So then looking more at what things can you include in your sequencing that stimulate the vagus nerve or the other nerves of the parasympathetic nervous system. Breathing. Again, it's important. Are you going up? Are you stimulating, bringing someone out of dorsal vagal, or are you bringing them down from sympathetic to ventral vagal? Diaphragmatic belly breathings. The number one, feel that rise and fall of the diaphragm as you breathe. Coherent breath rhythm. That's Samavritti breath. Inhaling for 5, exhaling for 5, very well known to regulate the nervous system, improve heart rate variability. Slow or fast Kapalabhati. The movement of Kapalabhati stimulates the vagus nerve, but you can do it slowly. You can sniff out once, inhale fully, diaphragmatically, let the belly expand, and then do another. Long sighs out. Now, like if you teach in the UK, we can be a little shy with vocalization. But again, if this is coming from you, long sighs out, telling people when to sigh out in class, inviting that. Ratio breathing, inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 4, hold 2. Holds on an inhale, stimulate, holds on an exhale, down regulate. Someone up, emphasize the inhale and the holds after the inhale. If someone's in heightened state and you're trying to unwind them, holds after the exhale or emphasize the exhale. Lion's breath. That's working the glossal pharyngeal and the vagus nerve, sticking out the tongue and sighing that breath out. Brahmari bee breath, the humming. Humming has been very, very well studied for vagus nerve stimulation and glossal pharyngeal that regulate the parasympathetic nervous system. And the Ujjayi breath, the really audible breath. Then vocal activity. Vocal activity is, again, super well known for vagus nerve stimulation. That's going to regulate the nervous system. Om, chanting Om. You can get your students to chant this lying down. It's a really good way to introduce it to people who feel uncomfortable chanting. The Brahmari bee breath, lion's breath. Bouncing the voice. This again will make people giggle. It's when they're bouncing and then they bounce their voice like this. Much better standing than sat down, but bouncing the voice relaxes the vocal cords, stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. Chanting, singing, audible sighs. Again, if like me, you teach in England, it isn't always easy to get people to vocalize, but tell them the science why, and then you'll get more buy-in. Meditation. Adding short meditations to classes, movement meditations, mudra meditations with the hands. I just put one on my social media this week. Mantra repetition, meditation, like repeating Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Loving kindness meditations, tapping, all make more time for meditation in your class. And massage. Self-massage is really good nervous system regulation. Yes, it can be a professional massage or massaging your own hand, massaging your face, massaging your temples, your jaws, tennis ball rolling and massaging the feet, bringing more massage into class in asana. Okay. So we've covered off a lot. It's been about 50 minutes. So from basic introduction to the nervous system, the lens of polyvagal theory, how you can then observe your nervous system, observe the state it's in, use yoga to regulate the nervous system via the parasympathetic nerves, breath, meditation, bouncing, massage, but then everything else that's going on in a yoga class, from how you're greeting new students to how you're closing a class. There is a lot more happening in that than just good customer service. It is what's happening in the nervous system as well. So I hope you found this introduction helpful. I said I have an 8-hour training to train to teach yoga for nervous system regulation. It is starting live next Friday, the 15th of April. It's only £125, and this enables you to teach this and so much more. We go into a lot more depth on the science. We go into a lot more depth on polyvagal theory. We look at how that lines up with the chakras, with the gunas. We do 2 long practical practices. We test the science as well, seeing is there immediate response for this. We look at the blood pressure monitors, the heart rate monitors, see what is happening. You can do it with me live, but you can do it on replay. It works really well on replay because you can pause, rewind, take notes. Questions, you still email me. And then if you've been doing the replay, you just message me with your takeaways to still then get the CPD certificate. I love live, but I know it's not always possible. So it's an 8-hour CPD split over 2 sessions, 4 hours each. I will drop you the link. You can DM me for the link. I'll put it in the show notes. I'll put it everywhere. And if you're listening to this at a later date, you can just message me and take the course in your own time. Get busy in the Facebook comments. Let me know what was helpful for you today, or message me if you've been listening to the podcast. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you really soon. And I would love to see you on the 8-hour Yoga for Nervous System Regulation training. Thank you, my lovelies, and I'll catch you soon.